They turned up randomly and they started shooting bullets randomly into the village. It was just indiscriminate shots. So many people were shot and then they set fire to the village. The Rohingya are people who live in an area of Burma called Arakan. They've been there for hundreds of years. Their ancestors have been there, great-grandparents, etc. So this is where their life is, their homeland is. But unfortunately, they are not recognized by the Myanmar government. So they don't have certain rights such as education, the permission to work, freedom of movement. So they're denied a lot of basic human rights. The Myanmar government doesn't recognize them. There's a lot of hostility there, a lot of violence, and they're basically being forced out of their homeland. That's why you see a lot of them now migrating and seeking refuge in areas such as Bangladesh and other neighbouring countries. The reason that they're being targeted, some would say, is due to racism, because they're not considered to be the same race as the rest of the citizens of Myanmar. The government in Myanmar consider them to not be of Burmese or Myanmar descent, and of course they are part of the minority Muslim group there as well. We've seen loads of reports of various small extremist groups within Myanmar who have been spouting a lot of hate towards the Rohingya. I want to make it clear, it is a small minority group within Myanmar that come from the Buddhist community, but it's not the larger Buddhist community. There are a lot of members of the Buddhist community who are also actually speaking up for the Rohingya. So we shouldn't really make it an issue of Buddhists vs Muslims. It's a very small group. The persecution of the Rohingya, the systematic attacks, etc., this has been going on for years now, decades. It's not new. But the upscale in violence, the upscale in attacks, this is quite recent. So we've seen a lot more charities focusing on the Rohingya issue, and we've seen a lot more media attention towards the Rohingya issue. That's why you know about it and I know about it now. But this has been going on for decades now. It's quite horrendous, to be completely honest. We've had reports of entire villages being burnt down. We've had reports of women being raped, young girls being raped. We've had reports of family members being killed. Just yesterday, our team in Bangladesh met with a family who told us 8 members of that one family were all killed. I've personally met with a very old lady. She looked exactly like my grandmother. She told me all of her children and grandchildren were killed, and she was the only surviving member. So these are accounts that we've heard firsthand from the Rohingya refugees who have come into Bangladesh. It's unimaginable. It's like what they're describing to us is a living nightmare. Even yesterday we saw villages being burnt across the border. Many people are telling us that their villages were set alight. Many people are telling us that they were hit with makeshift weapons and swords. I met a man who had his ear chopped off. I saw a man who had 4 bullet wounds across his chest. I saw another man with a bullet wound in his ankle. Many of them have spoken of how the women were divided from the men in the family. There are also a lot of pregnant women. That a lot of women were basically becoming pregnant on purpose so that they could avoid being raped or being tortured. I would class it as the UN have classed it. It is a systematic violence towards the Rohingya. So it is basically ethnic cleansing. The Rohingya who have managed to flee the persecution in Myanmar, the ones that are seeking refuge in neighbouring countries, the bulk of them right now are coming into Bangladesh, and thankfully Bangladesh has accepted them and is providing them with as much shelter and provisions as they can. We need to remember that Bangladesh itself is quite a poor country. As part of my work with Islamic help, I've been on the ground, I've been distributing aid to the Rohingyas themselves. I've gone inside the camps to see their living conditions. It's absolutely horrendous. You have people who are basically making tents out of bin liner. Where they're living, it's not adequate for them, especially right now because of the monsoon season in Bangladesh. So one day it'll be sunny and scorching heat, and inside the tent everyone's boiling. And the next day overnight you've got torrential rain, monsoon rain, and you've got floods of muddy water which is mixed with feces and urine because people are defecating anywhere because there's hardly any toilets set up. All of that is running through their makeshift tents. So the conditions that they're living in are, it's perfect conditions for disease to spread basically. 2 days ago, our team were at the border, and the border guards and various other officials told us there's about another 150,000 Rohingya who are due to come in. Whilst our team were at the border, we saw thousands of people walking from the Myanmar border into Bangladesh. Basically, in the past month or so, the population of the area where the Rohingya have come into has doubled. We came across a man just yesterday who told us that he was aimlessly walking for 10 days trying to find the way to Bangladesh from Myanmar, and he had nothing with him. And as he was walking, the only food that he found to eat, the only thing that he consumed was leaves from trees. And as soon as he came into Bangladesh, he was given a morsel of rice. And he was so thankful for that morsel of rice. So food is essential, hygiene is essential, clean water is essential. There's many cases of diarrhea and even cholera because of the quality of water. People are drinking filthy water. In terms of people around the world, not even just in the UK, anywhere in the world, number one, we can donate to the organizations that are on the ground, that are delivering the aid. Number two, we can continue to speak about the Rohingya, because once we stop speaking about them, their voice will die out. These are some of the most oppressed people on the face of the earth. And number three, we need to speak to our local government, our local councillors, our politicians, etc., and get them to continue talking about it. When the UK applies pressure to another country and other countries get involved, we can definitely make a change. And most importantly, continue to speak up on behalf of the Rohingya themselves.